Association Hall of Fame. Let's give a round of applause for the second annual. The first is hard enough, but the second is always the amazing one. So how about a big round of applause for those that did this? All right, each year, like, last year, I come up and I say a couple of words. What we do at Brevard Sports Network is broadcasting. So we aren't always, what's the word I'm looking for? Polite when it might come to a call or a certain thing. Always respectful. But yes, it's our job to be armchair quarterbacks and things like that. So these events, this Hall of Fame, is really a beautiful thing because it humanizes. Like, I even made the expression tonight. I didn't recognize half of the people in the room without a hat or a zebra striped shirt on or a ponytail flying around the mat. So an event like this definitely humanizes officials, referees, and umpires. And I always love talking to guys like Steve Muzzy and Calvin Wright, because not only do I get to learn more about what I'm saying wrong on Friday nights, but I get to learn about two great guys. And as I get to learn more about all of you, I think people don't realize the human aspect of officials. So I want to talk about that for a minute. This Hall of Fame is something that should be done in every county across the country. We here at Brevard Sports Network, when we talk about officials, we always say, well, they made this call or they made that wrong call. And our business is about facts, but the human aspect of this tonight is there's 145 years worth of experience going into the Hall of Fame tonight. And you're going to hear about 6 inductees tonight that did some absolutely incredible things. So on behalf of Brevard Sports Network and the entire Brevard County community, thank you for what you do. Thank you for protecting our student athletes. Thank you for making the games that we watch and broadcast orderly. And on that human aspect, I want to leave you with a poem. It's called, I don't know what it's called, but I pulled it off the internet. I don't even know who wrote it, but I'm going to say it. And I think it really talks about, well, I'll just say it. The official is a lonely man whose calls are known to every fan, yet none will call him Dick or Dan in all the season's games. They'll never call him Al or Ed or Bill or Phil or Frank or Ted or Jim or Tim or Tom or Ted. They'll simply call him names. So thank you for all that you do. And ladies and gentlemen, the president of the MCOA, Mr. Steve Muzzy.
All right, thank you everyone. I don't know, one of the games that I did, I've been refereeing basketball for about 35 years. As soon as I make a call, it seems like every coach is like, come on, Steve. Yeah, so they do know our names, unfortunately. But so real quick, everybody, I want to first, again, welcome everyone to what is our second, what we hope is our annual Hall of Fame induction ceremony for the Mid-Coast Officials Association. I know for me, personally, it's an honor and privilege to represent over 350 members in our association, and we provide services now for 9 sports, 28 high schools, and 11 middle schools in Brevard, and in some areas, Indian River and Volusia County. So, being a sports official, it's not for everyone. As you probably have read, there's a growing nationwide shortage of officials that's having an impact on high school sports throughout the country. Games are being rescheduled, postponed, and canceled. It's a common theme. We have an issue, as you can see, we have an issue of aging demographics, and we're working very hard to recruit and retain officials. Virtually every day we hear something about bad behavior sports officials. Some of it is very serious. So what we try to do here at the Mid-Coast Officials Association is when you join us, you become part of our family, okay? And really, There's many rewards to being an official. The opportunity to meet new people, work with fellow officials, coaches, administrators, volunteers, all in an effort to serve our student athletes. We get to stay involved in learning about the sports we love. Some other things is you can stay active, physically fit. One thing is, as a sports official, you're challenged to make split-second decisions. You have to develop skills in managing difficult situations and scenarios. You also earn some extra money. I know we as an association were focused very hard on recruiting and retaining officials. And we continue to serve we hope to continue our service, our student athletes for another 55 years. The MCOA has been around for 55 years. And we want to thank all of you for being here tonight to honor our 2023 Hall of Fame inductees. A big part of retaining officials is taking the time and effort to recognize those who have made extraordinary contribution over their lifetime to the MCOA and the sports they serve. We're very much indebted to the inductees today for their service to the MCOA. What's great about this, as long as we exist as an organization, this moment will never be forgotten, and they'll always be appreciated. They will be on in our virtual Hall of Fame. We broadcast this live, so you can always go back and look at it. I want to say, and I'll get to that in a moment, but just so you know what the requirements are to be Hall of Fame eligible, you have to be nominated by a member. You have to get unanimous approval from a committee, a Hall of Fame committee, and 75% approval of an executive council. You have to work a minimum of 2 state finals. You have to hold a position of like a commissioner or an officer position or other type of position where you've really made some positive contributions. So I'd like to, before we get started, it's super important. I mean, this has been, again, 55 years. This is our second annual, and it's something that's long overdue. But to make tonight a reality, I need to recognize a couple people. First and foremost, Charlie Westerfield. Where's Charlie? Charlie's back there somewhere. There he is. Charlie is also our arbiter, administrator, and he has really done a lot to make this happen. This wouldn't have happened. Also, just right there with him is Norm Scheider. Norm, thank you for all you've done. Norm is also our MCOA secretary and general officer. I want to talk quickly about Alan here. Alan is a gift to our sports community and the community as a whole. This guy's work ethic and passion is amazing. I think he's had 2 hours sleep in about 3 days. Okay, and if you want a recap of the high school football scene, talk to Alan. Okay, because what he's done, and his right-hand man over here, Caleb Brown. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate how much you care about sports in this community and your support of our association. Also want to recognize, let's see, I don't see Calvin Wright. We got Dwayne Summers, our current football commissioner here. Thank you, Dwayne. We're going to talk about this guy again in a moment. We also have our treasurer, Mike Pressman. He's here. We have our girls cross commissioner, Javier Matza. He's here. Norm Schuyler, as we mentioned, our secretary. Dan Morris. Is Dan here? Okay. He was our baseball commissioner. I thought he was going to be here. And this guy we're going to talk about too, C.W. Bailey. Former sports commissioners and officers. Gosh, let me show these names. Don't see Ed Dufresne. I thought Bob Walton. Bob Walton. We're going to talk about him as well. Bill Rivera, soccer. Art. Fabritas. Thank you. And last but not least, it looks like Fred Reese is back there. Okay. Again, before we get started, I really want to thank the families for being here. You guys need to realize this is probably the most rewarding thing for putting this on.
We know that you guys sacrificed a lot for your family members to be out, and we know, to be out in service for the kids, student athletes, and I think this means a lot. I mean, this is a big accomplishment in their lifetime, and really, it's emotional for us. I mean, we're just so happy for you guys to be here to show support for these officials, so thank you. All right. Finally, I want to take a moment now to recognize another very special group of people who are here, which is our 2022 inaugural Hall of Fame class. And these guys are simply the best of the best. First, Mr. Bob Walton. Back here. And Fred Reese. And Mike Johnson. That brings us to a couple other folks. Mr. Jim Thompson, who we inducted. He is no longer with us. My good friend and buddy, who was here last year, Dave McGinnis. He sadly passed away on March 6, 2023. I mean, we were so lucky last year to honor Dave for his service to the MCOA. He was genuinely very thrilled and appreciative, and he was going to be an active part of this committee. We were going to do it at the Cocoa Elks, and so last year actually was his birthday, and we got to sing happy birthday to him as well on that day. So in addition to Jim and Dave, we also have some other members of our current class who you'll hear more about. Larry McCullough Sr., Jack Stalley Sr., and Bill Bancroft, who will be honoring in memoriam. So I just would like to take a moment of silence and prayer for those who passed away. Thank you. Thank you, and for Dave and everybody else, I'd also like to, you have a beer, I'd like to have a cheer for him because I know he'd appreciate that. So cheers to Dave and company, and I want to take a drink from him.
I'll try not to pour it on the ground.
Okay. So, again, thank you on behalf of the MCOA for being here as we honor and recognize this amazing Hall of Fame class 2023. I'm going to turn it back to you, Mel.
All right. How about a round of applause for President Steve? So our guest of honor tonight, our guest speaker, I recently had the opportunity to interview him, and you know the expression, jack of all trades, master of none. Well, our guest speaker tonight is a jack of all trades, and he is a master of them all, I promise you. Mr. Gary Shiffrin. Let me just tell you a little bit about Mr. Gary Shiffrin. First of all, the University of Florida made the biggest mistake they've ever made when they didn't hire his athletic director back in the 80s. I will tell you that right now. Mr. Shiffrin graduated from Springfield College. It's home of basketball for all you basketball officials out there in 1971. He came to Florida in the same year and began a 42-year career in education, administration, and as a coach. He was a teacher at Melbourne High School and got into coaching sports. Gary was the first interscholastic volleyball coach when girls athletics was brought into the interscholastic ranks of the FHSAA. In 1978, he left the classroom and became a school administrator. His roles were Dean of Students, Athletic Director, Assistant Principal, and from 1993 to 2003, Mr. Shiffrin was principal of Jefferson Middle School, and in his last 10 years, he was the principal of Merritt Island High School, and recently, Merritt Island volleyball coach Angie Patrick said, the principal of Merritt Island High School. He is Mr. Merritt Island. From 1991 to 2012, Gary was the commissioner of the Cape Coast Conference. In 2014, he was inducted into the Florida High School Athletic Hall of Fame. In 2015, he was inducted into the Space Coast Sports Hall of Fame. And in 2016, he was inducted into the Space Coast Public Service Hall of Fame. What happened in 2017? Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor, truly my honor, to introduce our guest speaker here tonight, Mr. Gary Shiffrin.
Thank you very much, Alan, and thank you for making me feel older than what I already am. I didn't realize all those years had passed and I had done all that stuff, but thank you. Thank you, Steve, for inviting me to be your guest speaker, although I really don't consider myself a guest. In 1971, I did graduate from Brevard College, and I came to Florida to teach at Melbourne High School. And from that time, I knew athletics was going to be an important part of my life. But what I was about to say, though, is I then became part of the MCOA in regards to coaching sports that used officials and things like that. So again, I don't necessarily consider myself a guest. I feel like I've been a part of the MCOA for many, many years, and I see some very wonderful, familiar faces, and I agree without stripes and a hat. But thank you, Bob, for coming up and telling me who you were. But again, thank you all. Ever since I was a little boy, I just enjoyed sports. No matter what season it was, if it was football season, I was in our basement. I lived up north, we had basements, and I would throw a football. If it was basketball season, I'd watch it on TV, then I'd go in the basement and I'd dribble a basketball. In spring, I would hit a baseball. So sports was always an important thing for me. But I never realized to what extent athletics would become part of my life. I knew when I began my teaching career that athletics was going to do this. I just didn't realize how much it was going to be. I wanted to coach, but the only sport when I came to Mel High that was available was cross country. Now, I played college soccer, I played golf, I did swimming and all that. I never participated in cross country, but I wanted to coach. And so I told the principal, yeah, sure, I can do this. And so I got a couple books and I read about cross country and training and all that. And I said, I can do this. And I knew, again, as a soccer player, I was in shape. I could run, no problem. So it was the first day of practice, and I gathered my 10 people that were on our team. And I said, all right, we're going to go run to the airport. This is at Mel High. We run. I figured out how far that was. So we're starting to run. And I realized that the people who wrote those books were from the north. Because they never talked about the heat and the humidity of Florida. So my running with the team lasted for 2 days. The next 2 days, I got a bicycle. You still sweat when you pedal a bike. So that lasted 2 days. So after that, I got into my air-conditioned car, and I would follow the team as they were running, and I would be comfortable and all that. I didn't stay long as a cross-country coach. But I ended up coaching volleyball, and I ended up coaching golf, and I ended up being one of the first soccer coaches in Brevard County when it was introduced in the early 80s. I worked with a gentleman by the name of Rick Stotler, who I'm sure many of you know, and know what a great soccer coach he was, and I was really glad that he was with us. I was even the athletic director at Cocoa Beach. But where my true involvement in athletics took place was when the commissioner of the Cape Coast Conference, my real good friend David St. John, asked me if I would be an officer. This was in '78. And I said, yeah, I think I'd like to do that. And so we ran the conference. It was wonderful. Dave did a great job. And unfortunately, in 1991, he passed away. An untimely passing away. The man ran every day. He could coach cross country. I mean, he ran every single day. He was in the greatest shape. And unfortunately, he passed. So at that time, the athletic directors voted me in as the commissioner. And for the next 23 years, I had the high honor of overseeing what I consider the greatest interscholastic athletic conference in our state. And there are many reasons I say this, but one of the reasons that I felt we were the greatest is because of the MCOA. That we were involved with an officials association that was by far the best in the state of Florida. And how can I say that? Well, from personal observations, I can say it. From the number of people that did state playoffs and state championships, the caliber of the officials that are sitting in this room and all the others that are out there was truly outstanding. And this just doesn't happen. It's earned. You all earned what it is that is being bestowed upon you. And finally, let me say a thing or two about Hall of Fames. I don't think anyone goes into work or goes into what they do thinking that someday they're going to go into a Hall of Fame. I'm convinced of that. You go and you do the best job that you know how to do, and then others recognize that you are truly outstanding people at what you do. I retired from public education in 2013, and as Alan said, I was fortunate enough to go into 3 Hall of Fames. Not one of them did I think that I deserved to be there, but others did, and that was good. That was good by me. For those of you going into the MCOA Hall of Fame tonight, I'm sure you didn't believe that what you did on the field, the court, or the mat was deserving of the special recognition that is about to be bestowed on you. You just did your job, but you did it in such an extraordinary way that others believe you deserve to be recognized and become a member of this exclusive club called the MCOA Hall of Fame. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Congratulations to all of our honorees. And the rest of you that are also out here, congratulations for the great job that you do. Thank you.
How about another round of applause for Mr. Gary Shiffrin? I mean to tell you that it was simply one of the most fascinating interviews I ever had an opportunity.
I forgot to tell you about these pictures.
Yeah, you know what? This one specifically we must know of, so I'm going to pass the mic back here.
The deal with this is that, as any of you that have worked in a high school, you know we have Spirit Week. And so my thing is that in order for the administration to show the students that we're with them and we do what they do, you dress up. And I can't tell you what this day was, but it was I was chilling.
Look good. Santa Claus, Shiffrin there. Mr. Merritt Island, that is for sure. Okay, so we are going to skip ahead by one. And so I want to, our first inductee of the night is going to be Miss Barbara Burgess. And here to induct Miss Barbara Burgess is Mr. Art Fabridis. Yes, sir.
Hey guys, I've known Barbara and her family for a long, long time. Excuse me, I wander, so.
No, wander.
Is that good for him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll stay here.
No, he's good.
Yeah,
He's good? Okay.
wherever you want to go.
I've known Jess and Barbara and Mike and the gang for years and years and years. I've been on the soccer field with Barbara hundreds of times, probably. When MCOA decided to bring girls lacrosse into Brevard County, Barbara had already been officiating girls lacrosse some other counties south of here. I forget what they are down there. Indian River and all of those. Barbara had already been working down. She has story after story about officiating games with no boundaries and chasing the ball into the woods and all that stuff.
Anyhow, when you guys decided to bring girls lacrosse into Brevard County, she was instrumental. Barbara was instrumental. She was the one who knew the sport. You guys recruited a lot of soccer officials because the field's kind of the same. So Barbara knew all the soccer officials, was comfortable recruiting, training. I mean, how many of us knew anything about girls lacrosse? Thank you. Nobody knew anything about girls lacrosse. I certainly didn't. And I ended up being the commissioner after her a couple of years. Anyhow, Barbara has recently, in the past couple of years, decided to retire. So Barbara has retired from officiating. And she's having a great, she's playing golf and traveling and stuff. The bad news is she didn't ask for permission when she retired. So the bad news is I have to give you a yellow card. Leaving the field without permission. Ladies and gentlemen, Barbara.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Art, for the nomination, and thanks for speaking on my behalf as well. Thank you to the MCOA committee and to all the people that were involved in getting me this accolade. I'm humbled to no avail. I want to thank my family. I've got 3 children, a husband. All of them have been soccer officials. My husband and my daughter and I all did high school soccer together. So there were a lot of nights that we weren't home together eating dinner. I did high school officiating for 20-something years. I started off with soccer, and then it was at a FHSAA rules meeting, Fred, that we were at Melbourne High, and there was a plea from one of the people down south that was involved with girls lacrosse officiating down there as the sport was exploding. And at the rules committee for soccer, this gentleman in Matika put a plea out to the soccer officials asking for volunteers to learn the sport, because they needed people to learn the sport and start officiating. So I raised my hand, and I learned the game. I never played before. My high school didn't have it up north then. They do now, but I knew nothing about lacrosse. So we traveled games, Indian River, Martin County, West Palm Beach area, even as far down as Miami and Lauderdale, doing games. And so we were in the car together a lot, and that's how we kind of like learned the game together, was an open book and just quizzing each other on the rules, to and from the game each time. So I love the sport of lacrosse. I love soccer as well, but lacrosse has been a real passion of mine because it's a beautiful game to watch when it's played the right way. I did have an opportunity back in 2013 to move over to England with my husband's job. And so while I was over there, I had looked into doing games in both lacrosse and soccer. So I ended up getting certified with the ELA, which is the English Lacrosse Association, and also the FA for soccer. But I really took a passion to the girls lacrosse games and did a lot of college games over there while I was living there. Did games in London, did it with Nottingham, did it with Lincoln, Derby, et cetera, et cetera. So my experience is somewhat diverse from most of you here, but I love the sport, and I miss officiating a little bit, but not enough to go back and do it again. Actually, what I miss is the camaraderie, among the officials, and even the coaches and the players too. I mean, it's a wonderful experience, right? And I'm really blessed to have that opportunity. So with that, I'm turning it over to the next person. Thank you very much.
I just want to say one thing, and Mr. Art, Javier, one of the most watched, if this tells you what your work and your efforts over the years have gone into, one of the most watched sports on Brevard Sports Network has become lacrosse, both boys and girls. And in fact, we have 2 or 3 different high schools, girls lacrosse programs that reach out to us every year to ensure that their programs get broadcast. And furthermore, lacrosse in Brevard County is on the way up. We'll have a state champion in a couple of years. So congratulations again. Please, another round of applause for Ms. Barbara. All right, I want to bring back to the podium here our president, Mr. Steve Muzzy as he introduces Mr. Bill Bancroft.
Okay, thank you, Alan. All right, so as you guys know, this is year 56 for us, and this is only our second Hall of Fame. So we're honoring folks. I mean, a large proportion of them, they're no longer with us, but it's still important that we recognize and honor them. And the individual who the committee also unanimously selected from the sport of basketball is Bill Bancroft, Captain William Bill Bancroft. And Bill was special. Bill served his country for 30 years in the U.S. Navy. His final stint in the Navy was as the commanding officer of NO2, the Naval Ordnance Test Unit. And we have, quite a lot of bullet points of Bill here in his background, but a couple personal things from my standpoint that I remember with Bill. When he was with the MCOA, he just quickly ascended to be one of the top, if not the top, basketball official in the association. And he worked numerous state, regional, and district playoff games. He served as commissioner of basketball for the Mid-Coast Official Association. He was really best known for his great attitude and passion towards the game. He went out of his way, and he was just one of these special people who went out of his way to mentor, support, and help officials. He made everybody better, and he really helped a lot of basketball officials. I see Jim Wright in the audience. I know Jim, and also Bob, as a basketball official, can attest to what a great man Bill, Captain Bancroft was. But he helped a lot of officials. Some of those people were John Byfoss, two I just mentioned, and others. But most of all, he was a leader. He promoted the MCOA through his actions, his community leadership, and his outstanding officiating. He truly enjoyed his craft, and the one thing that I remember, Barbara kind of said, "What do you miss?" You miss the camaraderie. And so when you would travel with Bill to games, it's all the time, not only on the court, but it's also, when you're in the locker room before and after games, and when you're traveling, coming back, sharing meals. It's just a special thing. And he was a special person, very worthy of being in our Hall of Fame class. So we can give Bill Bancroft a round of applause. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Life is funny. A couple of years ago, I was involved in the news industry, and I introduced our next speaker several times. And one of the things that I found out about him was that he was a heck of a wrestler and loves the sport of wrestling. But aside from that, the thing that I come to know him as, and probably all of you, is the best sheriff in the United States. Please welcome to introduce C.W. Bailey, Sheriff Wayne Ivey.
How's everybody tonight? So I finally get to have the last word on CW. I get to talk after you. So as Alan said, a lot of people don't know, but I love the sport of wrestling. It's something that I started doing in high school and was blessed to start coaching. Both of my children were raised on a wrestling mat, and my son is a 4-time freestyle state champion. My daughter is a 2-time All-American wrestler. I just love the sport. I ended up being the head wrestling coach at Vero Beach. I just started working for FDLE, and I became the head wrestling coach at Vero Beach. And we wrestled Cocoa High School. They came down to our gym, and in walks C.W. Bailey. And I thought, who in the hell would let their kids hang out with something? So then I find out he's the head coach, and I'm like, this ought to be entertaining. So we get out on the mat, and probably about the third match, I would say, we had a little controversy where I thought Rich made a bad call, and I went over to the table to argue it. So CW comes over to the table, as is customary, and as he comes over, I'm arguing my point, and then CW reaches in his back pocket and pulls out this book. He said it was a rule book. I'd never seen it before. And he starts quoting from the book, you know, section such and such, such. And Rich goes, Sheriff, do you have any other questions? Or Wayne, do you have any other questions? I'm like, yeah, what is that? What does he got? And he goes, that's the rule book. You ought to try reading it. So we go back. I obviously lose my argument. Something else happens. I go up and I want to argue again. And CW walks up, and as he's coming up, he pulls the book out. I said, never mind, Rich. I'm good. Thanks. So what started as me being mad at him for knowing more about the sport than I did turned into me seeing him probably every weekend of my life. Seeing him at wrestling tournaments, whether he was coaching or as he had transitioned into being a referee. And what I found about him was he would listen to you. He would let you argue your point, and then he would stay with his decision that he had made. He was one of the fairest refs I ever got to coach against, and my team would say the same thing. But CW and I also found a great friendship out of it. And it's a friendship that has continued long after I left the wrestling mat, and it helps us in our agency because he takes all of our bloodhounds, our retired bloodhounds, go live with CW at his sawmill. And he's a recent grandfather of one of his dogs. Just helped us with our litter of pups. But what I love about CW is he's never changed. Not once in the entire time that I've known him has he changed. He hasn't cut his hair. He loves his country. He loves his service to this country. He loves his community. And it is an honor to stand here today and tell you a little bit about our friendship as it's developed over the years. Now, one thing I am going to tell you, and I'm not bragging when I say this, but I never lost to him in a wrestling match.
That's a lie. I'll say publicly right now, the reason Vero Beach left the Cape Coast Conference because they got tired of beating by Coco Hot.
That is true. When the new coach started coming in, he was really good. So, sit down, you come on up, my brother.
Do I want it? Yeah. You can hear me. Yeah, we did run them out of the conference. The Bureau used to be in the conference. The very first match, his son wrestled. I was down at Bureau doing a high school match, and his kid was like elementary school. He said, hey, what match did you fight a kid? Last night I was at the football game. Violet was there. He said, I was the kid that wrestled Wayne's kid that very first match before the match. Thank you. I've been doing this for a long time. I have a good time. I'm the same lovable asshole every single time. Whether I'm in a good mood or a bad mood, it doesn't make a lot of difference. 36 years officiating. My first time officiating in the state of Florida. I graduated high school in '73, enlisted in the Air Force. My first duty station was Tyndall, Panama City. I was an unpaid assistant wrestling coach at Bay High School, and I signed up and I started reffing that year. The whole time I was in the service, I reffed and helped coach everywhere I was. I coached for 17 years, including 9 years at Cocoa High School. My dad, sitting right there, he'll be 89 Wednesday. When I graduated in '73, my dad, who'd always followed wrestling, any place I went, he was there. You know, he never beat me, by the way. But he started reffing for MCOA, and he reffed for 10 years wrestling. I can't get him to come back out now. We do need more people.
Looks like he can still.
Yeah. You don't want to get in a fight with him. Because it's a no-win situation. If you get beat by him, you got beat by an 89-year-old woman. If you beat him, he calls Wayne and elder abuse. That's just how it works. No-win situation. Anyway, I think you were responsible for this, weren't you?
We were.
Well, somebody nominated me, and I was never told who that was. Whoever it was, thank you kindly. Yeah, like I said, rep a lot of time, everywhere.
Same here.
One thing, can you back up that one? This right here, the Wrestling Mid-Coast Association. We didn't used to have one, but we do now.
Who were the four horsemen?
Tony Nunley, Johnny Woodbury, Ron Getz, and Ed Doomsday Johnson. They were some bad dudes.
Yeah, they still look like some bad.
Well, they are. That was our reunion about 4 years ago. You don't want it. They were the four heaviest weight classes.
So CW is truly legend. Truly a legend. Did you wrestle for Cocoa High School as well?
Oh, of course.
Great stories. The guy wrestled for Cocoa High School, coached, and he is such an instrumental leader for us. And Sheriff Ivey mentioned, I just don't want this to go really unnoticed. How many bloodhounds do you have now?
I've got 8 right now.
Oh my God! I've been to the
9
sawmill.
pups that they just had.
This guy's just an amazing. We're so proud that he's part of the MCOA, but he's such an amazing member of our community, and really struck me because it just strikes me that you have not changed at all. I mean, he, unfiltered, authentic, real. Daily.
I quit cutting my hair when I got out of here.
When are you going to quit dying?
And I thought Calvin would be here. Calvin's got that Santa Claus look, and I told him several times, just for a minute, I'll take care of that for you. Ask me how I know.
That was awesome. But I wanted to learn. I didn't know anything about wrestling when we began broadcasting, and when I wanted to learn it, and we went to Bayside for the Barbara Pill Memorial, it was CW's matches that I watched because I knew that just by going in and seeing him work the mat, and again, I didn't know anything about the sport, didn't know anything about him, but amazingly enough, I do have the ability to shut up and watch. And so when I watched him, referee a match, I learned a lot, when he would pick the cards up. So thank you for helping us out. Our next speaker is one of the inaugural inductees into the Mid-Coast Officials Association Hall of Fame. And quite honestly, he's just one of the best referees that I know. And every time I walk into a stadium on a Friday night and see Bob Walton there, I know that we're going to have a really good game. So here to induct Mr. Larry McKellis Sr., Mr. Bob Walton.
When Steve talked about aged officials, you look. I had the very fortunate when I first started officiating. I started in 1986, so I'll let you figure out how long that is. But I got to meet a lot of really good officials over the years, and one of the guys was Larry McKellis. When I first started, the veteran officials that we had at that time were always taking the younger officials under their wing, teaching them how to do things the right way. And Larry was one of those guys. He was with us for quite a number of years before he retired. But unfortunately, Larry passed in 2013. And he was like I say, he was one of my mentors. I had lots of luck because I had guys like Steve O'Neill and Dave McGinnis and Bill Bancroft, who Steve talked about earlier when I started, and they helped my career a lot. And it's funny because we were talking, Gary was up here talking. I remember when Gary was the principal at Jefferson, because back then Jefferson played football. And they would play on Thursday. They didn't play the game, early game, and the JV team would play later on. They also played basketball. And the girls always played first. And a good friend of mine, Jim Snyder, was their head coach. And then the boys played later. But one thing about Gary, I'll say real quick too, is anytime I was at a game, Gary was always there. Whether it was the middle school games, junior high games, or the Friday night football games, at Merritt Island, you can count on Gary being there. And that says a lot. Because the kids look at that. You don't think they do. They do. They look and see who's there. And but anyway, getting back to Larry McKellar, Larry was he was a football official, he was a basketball official, he was a softball official. And like I say, unfortunately, he passed away in 2013. And his son, Larry Jr., started officiating with us he was with us for a few years. Unfortunately, he passed away in July. And so, both Larry Sr. and Larry Jr. were good officials. But Larry was one of the senior officials when I started here. And it's my honor to be able to induct him into this Hall of Fame.
Maybe a slight change here, I'm not sure, but how about another round of applause for Bob and, of course, Larry McKellar. Our next inductee will be Jack Stalling Sr. And here to do that induction will be...
Got the wrong picture up.
No, give it this way? Okay. Right there, the president did that. All right, so our next inductee will be Jack Stallings Jr. And Jack is to be inducted and introduced by Taylor Stallings.
Hey everybody, thank you for being here today. I'm honored to be here today to introduce my dad, Jack, or Papa Jack, as he's known to his grandkids. I'm sure you guys have heard them. As many of you know, my grandfather was also being inducted tonight as well. We'll hear more about him later, but he is known as Daddy Jack to me. So. Earlier tonight we talked about the human factors of officiating, and I really wanted to touch on that stuff and bring it home to everybody here tonight. For those of you who know my dad, you know how authentic and genuine and what a caring man he is. You know that he's resourceful and creative, he's kind and understanding, he's extremely connected to his grandchildren, and he's a cherished member of our family. My dad's been an official as long as I can remember, and no matter where he's lived or what life challenges he's encountered, he's always been part of the community. In this role, I saw him grow a robust career, stay engaged with competitions at every level, and also mentor those along the way. He has many hilarious stories on the weekends. There are moments of tragedy, but most importantly, he reflects on his lifelong friends, like C.W., who's here tonight. Officiating, I believe, was always part of a way for my dad to stay connected to his own father. Every time I see him on the field, I know his father is proud, as are we. I also know that through this connection, I get to better know my grandfather, and his grandchildren get to know their great-grandfather. Because my dad carries the best in his dad. He brings it with him every day into the world and out onto the field. So, congratulations, Dad. We're all just so proud of you.
kid. If you don't know, Taylor is a 9-time Florida State swimming champion. And the only reason she didn't swim in the Olympics is her senior year she got an injury. Phenomenal.
Really don't know how to follow that. My family, as you can tell, makes me very proud and really makes me honored and kind of speechless on what to say and how to follow up on that. I wouldn't get anywhere in this life if my family wasn't there to help and support and make me laugh and make me cry and make me smile and just be there. My parents instilled upon us a relationship to count on your siblings, on each other, because you are family. If you can't look for them for support and help, you're probably not trying hard enough. I got into officiating kind of as a whim to stay connected to the sport of wrestling and football. When my son, sitting back there, got into wrestling as a young kid, I didn't have quite the time that I wanted to be able to be a coach there, and the next best thing was to be an official where, hey, I could actually go to these matches, tournaments, and get paid. You see him do it all in one shot. It was best of both worlds. And it really just is a wonderful, wonderful situation to be able to watch young people grow and develop and mature into themselves, into an adult, through sports and through scholastics and just always bettering themselves and going up with things. I've had some wonderful relationships in my officiating career with my buddy C.W. there on the mat. We had two other guys that at one point in time, the four of us, we would just dominate every tournament, both in Brevard and Indian River and a lot of Orlando area there. It was the other two that aren't here today are Dennis Jones and what the heck's Gary's last name?
Sins.
What was it?
S-T-I-E-N-Z. Something like that.
Retired Air Force guy named Gary. But we had a lot of fun. And I think one of the pictures might even be the four of us sitting at a table that was down at Sebastian River. This was actually before the thing called track wrestling now that does all wrestling. What we used to do it in the past with a pencil and paper. And you proceed on the day through the brackets and things like that. Well, we were waiting for these brackets that, imagine that some kids didn't make weight, so they had to bump up a weight class and have to do all the brackets that were pre-made out. And we had to wait for things to get done, so somebody took a picture with the four of us sitting there. But I just, again, want to thank everybody, thank the MCOA, my families, my support system, mechanism, and I can't go on without them. Thank you much.
I talked earlier tonight about the human aspect of officiating and officials, and I don't think anything says humanizes officials, referees, and umpires more than having a father and son be inducted into a Hall of Fame. And with the Stallings family here, I'm going to embarrass you. Could you please stand up? Please. Everybody with the Stallings family, please stand up. Now, let's give them a big round of applause because there are generations there that have worked together to ensure you have two going in to the Hall of Fame tonight. Thank you for your commitment to each other and to the MCOA. Our final inductee tonight will be Jack Stallings Sr. And here to tell us about Jack tonight will be Mr. Dwayne Summers. Yes, sir.
Wow. It's really tough to follow that when you got the patriarch of the family that's, you know. I can tell you when I first got in, 30 years ago, and I know Bob said everybody had a little mentor, you know, that stuck by. Yeah, I've got an opposite thing of that, because most of the older gentlemen, when I got in, they wouldn't talk to you for 2 years. They figured you're just a flash in the pan, you know. You're probably not going to be here next year. Jack Sr. always takes time and explain anything and everything that you ever wanted to know, especially in the 80s. He was just great. He was in the middle of the, what we call it, in football, he was in the middle of the field guy. So he was either a referee in younger games or an umpire. Umpires, if y'all don't know, have to know the rules just about as good or better than a referee because they bounce it off each other to mark off yardage. You have to get it right. By the way, thank you, Jack, for letting me do this because I mean that's a real blessing. So I can remember I never worked umpire. I was always a wing guy or back judge or something. I was working with Jack one night. He was a referee. And for some reason, I was an umpire. And I couldn't figure it out, but I was working umpire. And Jack calls me up after a play, and it was a pass play. And he comes back and he goes, Dwayne, umpires don't go all the way back down the field with wide receivers. You should stay up on the line. That's an umpire thing. Jack is just phenomenal about helping teach. I didn't get to know him that well because I was only in association for like 2 years before he passed. But I can tell you this, and I brought this for a reason. This is not going to be very long because I wish I knew him better.
You're doing well enough.
I was working, and I worked 2 kids' games today. Probably, I don't know, he might have been a little older than me at the time. But 2 kids' games I worked today in this heat just kicked my blood. The last day that I've ever seen Jack Sr., we worked 4 or 5 games, youth games, in the same heat together. And all the other guys that was with me, they were pretty young, you know. And Jack comes up to us, and he's shaking our hands, slapping backs, and he goes, let's go have a beer. And we're looking at each other going, oh my God, you got me kidding. We're ready to die, you know. So I figured I was going to come up here and everybody stand up. Good cold beer.
Yes, sir.
This is for Jack Sr. and I know he's out there having one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Nice job.
Can a couple of the sisters come up and...
Absolutely.
Brothers and sisters.
Hi, I'm Katie. Liv. Mary Lou. Before we get started, I want to say I was at P.O.W High when Gary was assistant principal. We'll have to catch up afterwards. So, I looked, when Jack said we needed pictures, I looked long and hard for this particular picture. You don't really, can't quite tell, but he's walking out of Our Savior's Catholic Church. Mary Lou's daughter had just been baptized. He had a game, or maybe 4 or 5 youth games, I'm not really sure. He got the biggest kick out of going back after the baptism, going into the men's room, changing into his uniform. He's smiling, he's happy. Mom, Mom was not so happy. But you know what? I don't think she ever told him. She was his backbone. She supported him. It was her father who got Dad into officiating. Dad originally was a school teacher. You said he taught. I imagine he was an excellent school teacher. About the time baby number 4, thank you, you're welcome, I mean, came along, he couldn't afford to be a school teacher anymore. He had too many mouths to feed. He went into sales. So my mother's father got him into officiating. So it goes back many generations. And Pop officiated. Dad would go Monday nights, eat spaghetti, and go to the officiating meetings back in New Jersey in the 1960s. And by the 1970s, we were in Florida, so 1960s. Uncle Johnny, Pop-Up's son, he officiated. Dad officiated. Jack officiated. Taylor used to do some swimming officiating. Jason wrestling. My daughter Rachel officiates lacrosse over in Orlando. So, a whole legacy of officiating. And I coach high school sports, so I know officials, we need officials. So, you know, I have to say, way to go, Pop-Up. But way to go, Mom, for supporting Dad when he walked out of the church in his official's uniform. But way to go, you know, everyone. And even at high school reunions, I had classmates come up to me and said, your dad officiated my youth football games. And, oh, you know, he was great. You know, I'm sorry he passed. He was wonderful. He was, you know, helpful. And, you know, I know not just my classmates, but the story, one that I thought about when he was a teacher and coaching football, because he coached before he officiated. He and other coaches were, after practice, reviewing things, going over the day's practice, getting ready for the game. And they walk out, and it's dark, and all the kids are long gone, and he can't find his car. His car is gone. Little VW bug, so it wasn't that heavy. All the football players, or several of them, picked it up and somehow put it in the gymnasium. Yes. You don't do that for someone you don't love. I mean, you know, seriously, that just shows the you know, the way they just liked him, and he connected. He really did. He really did connect so well, and he was a great teacher. I remember having history questions and doing my homework, and he would tell me the answer, and I'd go to school, and I remember Mr. Conley in 6th grade going, well, where'd you get that answer? And I was like, oh, my dad. It wasn't in the book, but it was really a lot of fun to, you know, be able to be proud of him. And I had one last story. Oh, yeah. So I was, I coached briefly track at Cocoa Beach High School when I was shortly after graduating and before kind of moving on to careers and things. And I was at a multi-sport banquet. And Angie Martello, he was coaching baseball, and he was telling a story about my dad. My dad was umpiring baseball. And now Dad, he had a lot of patience, and he knew how to take it from fans. You know, he said when you had a bad day and you came home and kicked the dog and took it out on Dad, he said, well, it's like in an official at a game. They need a place to put their anger. But he also knew how to shut it down. And he had this woman who was heckling him, and Angie told this story to everybody. Heckling him. And finally, his dad was behind the plate. Finally, she said, umpire, if you were my husband, I'd feed you poison. Dad didn't lose a beat. He turned around and said, lady, if I was your husband, I'd eat it. We love our Daddy Jack. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're at a point where we need, Charlie, we want all the Hall of Fame.
With cake, too. Cake.
That's right. Okay, but right now, if we can bring everybody up for a picture, and we've got a little something for the inductee. Come on up, Jack.
want to get a good picture too.
That's why we're moving that.
Don't you guys go that way?
You want horizontal?
That's what I meant.
Okay.
You're on the right.
Right. 1, 2, 3. All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And if we could, another round of applause for C.W. Bailey, Barbara Burgess, Bill Bancroft, Larry McKenna, Jack Stallings Jr., and Jack Stallings Sr. Double.
One more picture request.
Okay?
We need last year's Hall of Fame inductees who are here.
This year's.
This year's. We need to get you guys. Come on, Jack. We got
All right, come on up.
We have to document this for our Hall of Fame.
All right, while they're taking pictures, I'll finish up with closing comment here, and that's the thank you all again for all the umpires, referees, officials in the room. We're very appreciative of you, and the final message of the evening is there's cake. Make sure you grab yourself a piece of cake on the way out. Thank you very much to the Mid-Coast Officials Association. Have a great evening, everybody.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you, everybody.